Hello everyone and welcome to my first video for my Anglo-Zulu War Project. Now those of you that have been following the channel for a while or who watch the Plastic Crack podcast will know that this is a project and a conflict that I have wanted to have a look at for quite a long time. It's just I wasn't sure how I wanted to go about it, the way I was going to depict it, all sorts of things, even such things as how am I going to do the basing. I've resolved that now, and the project has started a little sooner than I intended, and that's very simply because I was painting some final bits for my Crusades project, which is nearing the end of phase 1, so don't worry, I haven't forgotten about that. And I just fancied doing something different, so I just stuck two Zulus together and painted them and enjoyed it so much. The next thing I knew, I'd stuck together a whole box of Perry miniatures and I was just having great fun in doing it. So the project has effectively started early. I intended on doing it once I completed the first phase of the Crusaders. They're now overlapping slightly, but that tends to be what happens as wargamers. So you can see in front of you that this is my first Zulu regiment that I've done. So we'll have a look at the models. I'll show you what I've got to work on and to paint up, and I'll show you some of the things that I've bought to help me along the way, and some other bits and bobs as well. As always, guys, if you enjoyed the video, drop it a like. It's always really good to see. And if you've got any questions or suggestions, especially reading material, drop them down below, because I'm really interested in what I can pull together at the moment. Because even though this war was effectively 6-7 months, there is a lot of reading material on it, and a lot of conflicting accounts as well, basically just because of the nature of the conflict. Anyway, here we are. So here are my first 4 bases for my regiment. Now, I'm going to be referring to unit sizes in this based on black powder. Now, I wasn't too sure what game system I was going to use. I enjoy playing black powder. I base them up for black powder or for any other kind of large mass battle game. Games like Muskets and Tomahawks, I know they're doing a Zulu supplement. I'd be quite happy to paint up some individually based models to use for that. These are actually I find these really easy and really nice to paint, so that's something that I'd be happy to do. So as you can see, multi-bases, 4 large multi-bases for this regiment. Now I've painted up this regiment as I'm going to say now, I'm working on the pronunciations of things, so if I slaughter these, I apologise in advance. It's something that I'm going to try and work on over the course of the videos. And now I believe I've got these right. It's the Bella regiment, and they're a married regiment of Zulus, and they were just a lot of fun to work on. So what I'll do is I'll take one of these bases off of the back so you can see what's going on. Now, I've tried to keep things fairly straightforward and fairly simple and along a theme. Now, there's a lot of nice detail on the actual bodies, and this sounds a little bit weird, but the Perrys have done a great job in sculpting lots of different sort of muscles and everything, far more than you see on some other miniatures. All of these are the plastic Perrys, and I decided to paint these with the shields fixed to them, and the first couple I didn't, and then I realised that as I was doing these that this is absolutely pointless because it's not making a great deal of difference time wise, so I might as well just do them all in one go. As you can see, I have done a mix of spears and the assegai, as well as the club as well. Now, from the details that I've got on the Anglo-Zulu War, the headdresses and the regalia weren't worn a great deal, but I wanted to mix them in so they could be used and seen. It just adds some visual interest to the units. I've tried to keep the sort of cloth and the loincloths and the stuff here on the headdress. There's only 2 or 3 variations, so they all sort of come together. But yeah, I've based these sort of 6, 7, I think there's even one with 8 here, to a base. I kind of want that idea of them just rushing forward. The Zulus fought in sort of tight formation, and I like the idea that this is just as the formation is getting to its target, and then they're rushing and jumping out. So there's a lot of motion in these models, which is quite cool to capture. I've also made use of the casualties that come in the plastic box set, which is always a nice little add-on. So you can see there's a chap down there. I've tried to make it not too gratuitous. I've just added a sort of a bullet hole. Now, I did watch a video online with one of those ballistic gel bodies that shows what a Martini Henry rifle would do, and it's not pretty. Even the entry wound was fairly big, but I didn't want to go too overboard, so I've just added a wound in his leg there. And you get lots. These shields can all be used as discarded shields. You could use them for shaken markers or disorder markers quite easily, or even just wounds if you wanted to do that. This base here, I've added some models with captured rifles. So we've got one here with a Martini Henry, and there's another one here with an old-fashioned flintlock. And something I'm fast discovering is this idea that the Zulus didn't have firearms is in fact incorrect. And well, up until Isanwana, they did have firearms, but they were quite old and they didn't have the ammunition to be able to practice. But then after Isanwana, they of course captured a lot of Martini Henry rifles and an awful lot of ammunition, and so therefore certain members of the Zulu military were able to train with them and get better with them. And there's even some accounts of snipers, which is quite interesting. This base has got 8 on it. Now the shields are all hand painted, and I just tried to find an easy way and a method to do that, which effectively involved just a couple, so putting down base layers for the cowhide shield, and then painting on the different spots, because again I can see that the shield colours are relevant to the regiment they're in. So according to the information I've got, which was in the Perry leaflet, the Black Powder source book, which we'll have a look at in a minute, and one of the Osprey books, the Bella Bella, again, sorry if that's wrong, the pronunciation, regiment had white shields with sort of red orange spots on. So those are all hand painted, and again they were quite easy to do and quite fun to do. I added leopard print around the headdresses. I thought that would look quite cool. And then another casualty over there. I don't want to overdo it with the casualties, but they are nice to just add some visual interest to all of these bases. There's the last base here. No, is that the last base? No, that's not the last base. This is the last base. There we go. This is probably my favourite. I really like how this sort of front rank came out. Really pleased. The bases themselves, these are from Big Red Bat. You'll know these from my other projects. They've got sort of wavy edges that you can sort of push together. And what I've done with these, I have used a very similar method to how I'm doing my Crusades. I'm using the Sandy Desert mix from AK Interactive. However, I am mixing in, 1 second, let me put him down. I'm mixing in this stuff, this secret weapon rust. A lot of the videos I've watched and the films that have been filmed in Zululand and around Natal, the ground, the sand is a very reddish colour. So I add some of this rust orange into the sandy desert paste, and it gives it this nice sort of orangey reddish feel without it being too overpowering and looking like Mars. Once that's down, and I add a few rocks, dry brush the whole thing, and then I've been putting down different lengths of static grass. In fact, what I'll do now, I'll stop the turntable, I'll take those off of there, and I'll have a look at some close-ups and you can see. Okay, so here they are, all lined out, and if I take this unit here, because you can see the grass, what I've done, I've used my static grass applicator to put down a 4mm mix of summer grass down first, and then I've used a 4mm to 6mm mix of dead grass, and I've used that around the edges of where the grass is, so where it's dried out, where it might be more trodden in, to basically just highlight, almost in the same way you would with a miniature with paint, just upper details on the ground. So where I've got raised areas of earth, I've added more of the dead grass and put the dead grass on top of the summer grass to show obviously patches where it's drying out. I've then used Tajima 1 tufts and shrubs and large bushes just to basically mix in there and just add some more interest. These aren't actually the only models that I have done, because as you can see, you get some muskets and rifles in with this lot as well. So I finished these 2 bases as well from the box, and these are, as you can see, they're armed with Martini Henry rifles and flintlocks, and added another casualty. Lots of spare weapons, so you can do them hanging around. And here I've actually tried to make the base a bit more interesting. I've got the Zulu hiding among the bushes. I'm just trying to bring it all together with one consistent theme. We have this one here, chat reloading. So I've done these Zulus as unmarried, and you can tell if they're married by the headband, which you can see on these guys here, especially on this one down here. The headband denotes whether they are married or unmarried. Now, from what I understand from my reading so far, and I do know about the battles of the Anglo-Zulu War, and I know a fair bit already, but it's the details of each of the columns that was going in, each of the regiments, and the various Zulu commanders as well, and that's some stuff I'm really enjoying. But from what I understand, this idea, I think some people have the idea that the married regiments were some form of elite, and it's actually a bit easier to think of them as the unmarried regiments have been more of the standing army, and the married regiments of having served their initial time of being a reserve. Obviously, that reserve would then have some experience that the younger warriors wouldn't, but younger warriors have also got youth and vitality and strength and everything on their side. So that's something we can potentially reflect in the rules, which I'm going to come on to in a minute. So anyway, yes, I've done these, and I've done them separately, so they could either be used as a small unit, or we can attach them to the front there. So a lot of fun. I'll show you what I've got coming up, because it's basically going to be more of the same. But because I managed to work through these so quickly, I'm seeing things moving quite rapidly, and there's other miniatures that I want to buy. Okay, here we are. So everything I've got for the Zulu War so far is in thanks to Dom from Boots on the Table. Cheers, mate. You sent me some Zulus to paint, and also Sean from Metal Mercenaries. He sent me some Zulus and also some British infantry. So let's go to. I've got 2 more boxes of Zulu warriors to do. There's 38 miniatures in each of these boxes, and everything that I've just shown you is from one box. But I've actually still got about 5 miniatures left over, so pretty much enough to make an extra base. So out of these 3 kits, I should have an additional 3 bases, so I could increase the size of a unit, or I can maybe make a smaller unit. We'll see. So I've got these 2 boxes of Zulus to go through from Perry. I have a single box of the British infantry for the Zulu War from Perry as well, and had a look in there, and very nice as well. What I like in here is they've also got some bits of equipment like the hats and rifles and that I could put on Zulu bases. Dom very kindly sent me this Shaka Zulu model, which I will be using as an Induna commander. It won't be used as Shaka, but he'll go on a nice command base, and it'll be very fun to have on there. So maybe I could use those 4 other models that are left over to have around him. So he'll be one of my first commanders. Now, a note on the ideas for black powder. Now, the thing is with black powder, as you may know, you have tiny, small, medium, and large units. Now, the Zulus are denoted in the book, which we'll see in a minute, as warbands. Now, warbands can't form, columns, line, and all of that kind of stuff. They have to go in a mass, and they have to sort of be square on. So this would be a standard Zulu unit, and a large one would be another 2 bases on top of this. So they're going to have a completely different basing system to the British, who are obviously going to be able to form ordered lines and also form things like columns. Now, one of the things that was holding me back with this project was I was unsure about how to scale things. You've effectively got one side, which is almost effectively a horde army, and I don't mean that in any kind of derogatory sense. I just mean you have a big mass of warriors. And in the other side, we have the British, who are, on the face of it, meant to be ordered and disciplined and in firing lines. So I didn't know how I was going to do this. Is each unit going to represent a battalion, or is it going to represent something smaller? And I've decided that I'm going to represent the British in companies. So I think there was eight companies to a battalion. and then obviously 2 battalions to a regiment. So each one of these will be a company. So you have like A company, B company, and C company, and then this will have 7 or 8 models on it. On each, or 7 or 8, sorry, 6 or 7 models on it each with a commander, and then we can fit things around it. And that's very much how I did my Wars of the Roses thing. So my Wars of the Roses ideas for using 3 bases for a standard unit will extend into the Anglo-Zulu War. It's going to allow me to play games on a 6x4 or a 7x5 at the scale I want to. So something like this with the British on it will be standard, and then you've got the Zulu unit that's like this as standard as well. And then you'll see how the two face off, because obviously this is going to get loads of attacks based on what I've read, and these guys will obviously have the advantage with shooting. So that's how I'm dealing with the basing. Let's have a look at the Black Powder book for Zulu, which I ordered, and I have thoughts about. So here we are, the Black Powder Supplement Zulu, fighting battles of the Anglo-Zulu War with model soldiers. First thoughts, it's a very well put together book like the other supplements for Black Powder. I've actually only got the Napoleonic supplements for Black Powder, and like them, it is full of very nice artwork and pictures of toy soldiers. Now, this has a very nice overview and timeline and history of the Anglo-Zulu War. The author has taken some time to go into sort of concisely explaining the causes of the conflict and what was going on in the various regions and between the various columns. You have some small special rules here to do with the unit sizes, as you can see, and the British being able to fire multiple times if they are being charged. Now, the way it presents itself, instead of presenting things in armies, it does it through a series of battle reports, and it shows how they basically took these orders of battle and put them into scenarios for the game. So you'll have, like this one here, you've got a scenario, and then over here you've got the stats for all of the combatants. Now, this is where I wouldn't say I get annoyed, but this is where you can see I can already see how I'm going to want to make some changes, because the British in here have obviously got lots of different troop types. They have things like rifles, they have line infantry, they've got the 17th Lancers, they've got rocket infantry, they've got Marines, they've got Royal Artillery, all sorts, Natal Native contingent, and the Zulus have Zulus, and you get something a bit like this where you've got lots of different troop types for the British, and Zulus are just one stat line. Now, I completely appreciate why that has been done, especially if you're playing really large games. They do add at the bottom here that half the Zulu units may possess firearms with a range of 18, and everyone else has just got assegais, which have a range of 6, that they're throwing spears. Now, that's partly why I've done my spearmen and the rifles the way I have. I thought if I'm playing it in the way that half my regiments can just be given firearms, then what I can do, I knew I picked the one way it wouldn't go around. What I can do is I can essentially just attach these to the front like that to indicate that there are rifles in that unit. However, I'm going to definitely have to come up with some stats for using these as a small unit. They're not going to be amazing, and they're not going to be sort of, sharpshooters, picking people off, but we do see those in various battles, and the research I've already done that does happen. They weren't, were used to great effect, but it will be used. Also, I feel like I'm going to have to maybe just make some variations within that, add other special rules in, so just thinking off the top of my head to represent the sort of more veteran status of some units who maybe fought at places like Isanwana and Kambula and these other battles, maybe taking in things there like the stubborn rule, and then if you have got freshly raised units of young unmarried Zulu warriors, put them in there. There is the freshly raised rule, and they can also have a more aggressive charge. So I can already see that I want to change things, and I would just use this as a base. It's not saying it's a bad book at all. I just could do with a little bit more detail. All the scenarios in here are very cool. There's a nice one for Rorke's Drift. There's a very big one for Rorke's Drift. There's one for Kambula and the Battle of Holbein. These are all really nice scenarios. And then at the back of the book, you have a very nice reference section on the recognition guide for the Zulus, which is very cool. So this is one of the ones. So here we can see the Mbelebele, the litigious, which what that means, married, shields with white with red spots. This, I have noticed this list, and there are basically between each publication there appears to be some differences, but that's not a big problem. And then at the back there's just a few pictures of the battlefields and some further reading. So I will be using this, definitely, and it's nice to have. However, I feel this is probably going to, a bit like I do with my Wars of the Roses things, I'll use this as a base, and then like everything in Black Powder, which is a good sandbox and a toolkit, I'll expand on it. So that's what I've got with these. However, it wouldn't be a new project if I didn't go and get some reading material, and where best to start than with Osprey, and this is one of their older ones actually, but exactly what you would expect. I mean, look here again, you can see this is the regiment list here, and you've got listings for their shields, and some very, very basic information, but some really nice colour plates to use as reference when you're painting. So picked up the Zulu War. I've also picked up this one, British Infantryman versus Zulu Warrior by Ian Knight. Now I know that Ian Knight is effectively just one of the fonts of knowledge on the Anglo-Zulu War, and I've been watching a lot of interviews with him, and I've got a few other papers that he's written. And then finally, this is one I was really, really keen on, and I'll tell you why. I picked up this book by Ian, which is all just about the fortifications, and I think everyone just automatically thinks about Rorke's Drift. But this has some fantastic photographs from 1879 and 1880 of the forts the British were building as they went through Zululand, and they were trying to establish bases of operation and protect themselves, and views of what they look like now and straight after battles. I'm absolutely fascinated by these forts that we were building, and it shows you sort of how they do the lagering with the wagons, how the troops will be positioned. This book is fantastic, and this one I'm reading this one before I'm having a look at these. I really, really like the idea of building a little fort and getting some wagons and lagering them up like this, and I feel like the Anglo-Zulu War is going to be a really rich background to be able to do lots of little what-if scenarios and conflicts where you've just got companies trying to escort supplies around, which did happen, and there were quite a few ambushes laid by the Zulus, or the Zulus are trying to break in. There's a fantastic plate in here of the Zulus trying to muck around with the defences while they're being built, and setting off a torpedo that had been rigged. So all sorts of things like that, and I don't know, maybe I'll have to have a go at building a small, I'm not doing another castle, but a small fort, which can be used. So that's where I am with these. I've also got a number of papers. I'm fascinated by the Naval Brigade and how they operated, because of course they had the Gatling guns. I'm already looking at Empress miniatures, and I'm trying really hard because I want to kind of get more Zulus painted before I start doing the British, but there are some beautiful models on Empress miniatures that I want to have a look at. I will probably be getting some of the Warlord miniatures. I'm just happy to mix and match, really. So that's where we are. So we are one regiment down, plus one small unit or attachment, and I'm going to be pushing on with more Zulus. What I'll do is I'll update again when I've done my next regiment. I potentially will have a couple of other things painted by then, and also some more research. But let me know what you think. What do you think of the models? Is there anything you'd like to know, how I've done it, or any suggestions? That would be really, really cool. This whole thing I'm finding just completely fascinating, to be honest. I have started reading the first book by James Mace, the author. I know he's written 5 books through the Anglo-Zulu War fiction, based on so historical fiction rather. And I think the first one's called is it Lost Valor or Forgotten Valor, and it's all about the start and obviously what happened at Isanwana. So I'm enjoying what I've heard so far. I'm listening to it in Audible as I paint. I've only listened to about a couple of hours at the moment. I think there's still about 15 to go. So yeah, let me know your thoughts. As always, guys, I will leave up some photos at the end so you can see the models that have been painted. So stick around, have a look at that. And I will update on this project again really soon. Keep your eyes peeled as well, because in the coming couple of weeks there's going to be some more battle reports coming up, other hobby updates for the other projects, and potentially a painting video as well if I can get it finished. So anyway, guys, I hope you all have a wicked weekend, and I'll see you all again soon. Take care.